more on Google Chrome, and the European Union's Digital Marketing Act. This is MacVoices. Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by TrueBill. Get control of your subscriptions at truebill.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. This is part 3 in a 3-part MacVoices live conversation that took place while I was traveling, so I'm not part of it, but the panel did a great job. This time, they wrap up their conversation about Google Chrome and why it could be trying to take over the internet, then digs into the European Union's Digital Marketing Act and what it could mean for Apple. Let's let the panel do the talking.
Apple shall allow Internet Explorer back on the Mac. It's been too long.
The Apple doesn't not allow it. Can't you get Internet Explorer?
I want iCab.
Not for a Mac.
Are you sure about that?
Not for like 15 years, 20 years.
I thought it was back again. I think it is.
No.
Microsoft Edge, yes.
Yeah,
Edge is
well,
there.
that's what I mean.
No.
That's he's talking about Internet Explorer.
Internet Explorer used to come bundled with the Mac, right?
There's no way. Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, we all have the trauma.
Pepperidge Farm.
We have the tire tracks to.
Yeah, no, that was. I still kind of have nightmares about that one.
We're still all going through therapy.
Yeah,
Frank, you mentioned you want iCab. Go download it. iCab is still around.
iCab is still available.
Are you serious?
And it runs natively on Mac
M1?
still.
Yes, it's still updated.
I love it.
I would think Microsoft,
but they're
iCab.de or.
But it is, they did stop developing their own web engine. It's WebKit.
To Jim's point, real fast, is if you put Chrome on iOS and if you allow side loading, then Chrome Chrome has its all own web store, app store, and I'm wondering if
that's true.
That would
right. Yeah. At that point, you basically have a
store
with a Chrome phone with an Apple logo on it.
Yeah, I wonder if they would,
but I think the problem is more systematic than that. I mean, you can get Chrome for iOS now. I don't know if it has their app store, but it's WebKit. It's not Blink. So I think the problem is at a lower level. Like Google could decide, we're not going to support HTTP anymore. Here we've got this HTTPG or whatever. Yeah. And they could do that with they have the heft. And especially if they didn't, if it wasn't for mobile Safari, Google could just unilaterally say, you know what, or if you use HTTPG, they're already trying to do that, with certain things like, you're going to get way better performance if you use our protocol. And, they did that with, I think, AMP or something like that, which didn't really work, but.
Well, AMP was more about you putting the hooks into your website so that Google could hijack all your content.
Right. But the point is, if Google controlled, 90% of the browsers in the world, they could just do that and say, you must, the web publishers would be like, Google could say, if you want to be on 90% of the browsers, you've got to do this. And
But if Safari is coming with the Apple, if Safari is still coming with the iPhone, most people aren't going to bother changing it. I think
they will if their websites don't work anymore.
What you do at that point is you make a special web page that goes through the hoops to be able to display on mobile Safari, and it says that you need to tap the button to sideload Chrome for iOS so that you can continue to watch everything, and then everyone will be like, okay, boop.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what would happen. And imagine if say Facebook, or some popular, things are like, yep, you've got to use Chrome. People would just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Let me go to the chat room here real quick and get some of the comments that are being said of our viewers here. Brad said in the chat here, Chrome is not as bad of a memory hog as it used to be. I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's gotten a lot better because
That's
that was
like
always
saying a 500-pound boulder falling on you isn't as bad as
That is a
the
400-pound
1-ton
boulder.
boulder falling on you.
There.
okay.
People like to
It's all relative.
people like to bring up old memes like the the Internet Explorer 6, the Internet Explorer being slow. I mean, it was fun to say Chrome was a memory hog and all the memes out there about them, like crashing in the IT forums.
Yeah.
They all make fun of Chrome too, but
Yeah.
it's not as bad. And I think Edge is probably runs about the same as Chrome at this point. I use Chrome.
Edge and Chrome, I'd say run about the same, and I
Since
have
it's
to
the same
relaunch
code.
Edge like every 3 days, or
Yeah.
I just don't have memory, and the fans won't stop running on my computer.
I would do Safari, but it's not cross-platform, and that's why I use Edge or Chrome, because it's
Yeah,
cross-platform.
and I use Edge because there's specific plugins that I'm using that aren't available in Safari.
Chromium.
Sorry.
And that's one of the comments Brett made is the website I have to use to pay rent for my apartment forces us to use Chrome because Safari blocks cross-site scripting. And he says, I'm disappointed in our management company. So yeah, I don't think the management's going to probably adapt to Safari when you still have a lot of people still using Windows.
There's some
Well,
things that don't
but
work with.
there's not too many companies that do that because then that means it doesn't work on a phone and it doesn't work on iOS on iPad. So, certainly companies that are web centric don't do that, and probably his rental company, like they didn't write that software. They bought it for some troglodyte company that, but that's the thing, like look at all these things that Apple has done to help improve our privacy. If Safari becomes something that, is just not used, then that all goes out the window. Google doesn't care. They're an advertising company. So, Apple is pushing the industry there, but if Chrome takes over on iOS, then that's it. All the stuff Apple has done will just go out the door.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that the Verge article mentioned too is, Mac users have always been allowed to do download apps from outside their official store, but they say it isn't appropriate with the iPhone because these devices carry more sensitive information. But there are plenty of ways to do it because you can do, you have, of course, Apple's own enterprise app program, which they use Test Flight, be able to test apps. I've talked about this before, where, people are out there who have lists of apps that you can join these developers. And sometimes you want to be careful because those could be rogue developers that are offering some not so desirable apps. So
the Mac's
rogue
not locked.
developers like Facebook.
The Mac's not locked down. The Mac's not locked down because of history, though. I mean, it's
Warren is absolutely right. If
Right.
Apple were to
it's-
create the Mac today, it would be locked down the way the iPhone is.
absolutely, yeah, and because it's historically there, because it's never been that way, because it was born with computers,
And
and when computers were born, that was the only way to go, is to find software and put it on there. But yeah, Jeff, if it was up to probably most companies at this point, that's the way to go. Is kind of lock things down. I mean, Microsoft tried a few times with Windows S and all that, and that didn't really work. But the Xbox, the PlayStation, things like that, it's the same concept. And basically, they're like, we don't want you messing up. We want to babysit the software, and we want to see what comes on.
Yeah.
And some places do a better job than others in that. But it wouldn't be the Mac anymore if Apple said you can't install things.
I think Apple would do that in a heartbeat if they thought they could get away with it.
they can't.
Right. Oh, yeah, of
That's
course
the
they
thing.
would.
They can't.
And they've creeped in that direction, but they've gotten a lot of pushback. So they haven't pulled the trigger.
I mean, macOS has been out for so long that people know, there's people just knows ways to reverse engineer it and to do it anyways. Whereas Apple, the iOS, you can't really do that. But as soon as somebody figures it, if there was a way to figure out how to do it, people would have done it, and that's why they can't.
Well, they have. It's jailbreaking.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
true. Yeah. People were doing it.
Brett made a pertinent comment in the chat here. The Mac is evolving to become more locked with each new version of Mac OS. What do you guys think of that?
I wouldn't say each new version, but that's what I just was saying. They added Gatekeeper, they added notarization.
I think quite passable though.
So they're exploring in that direction, and I like I say, I think if they thought they could get away with it, they would do it. But I think it's pretty clear. Like if they did it, if they announced that at WWDC, they'd get a lot of people like, okay, that's it, Windows, on or Linux.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
I think it would be, it would be enough market share that Apple would notice. And also I think it's probably less likely because if you look at like I think 5-8 years ago I thought for sure they were going to do that. And part of that was just like, well, why not? So what if their Mac market share goes down? They clearly don't care about that. Well, now it seems like they do. They've actually been improving the Mac a lot and doing a lot of good things. So it doesn't seem like they'd turn around and do something that for sure would, I think drastically, like maybe by 25% or more would drop their market share if they.
Sorry, just when you're done, but it would be more Apple-like for them to introduce a whole new operating system instead of doing that and let the Mac kind of die out or whatever. They would come out with what coming this fall is desktop iOS or desktop OS, and it's basically Mac with just the Mac App Store.
Well, I think that's a few years ago it was like I think a lot of people thought desktop Mac OS was going to go away and be replaced by iPad OS.
Right.
And I saw a lot of people cheering that on. There were a lot of people that were like, "Oh, that'd be great." I'm tired of Macs. I want to use iPads, but that tide seems to have reversed a bit. The iPad really didn't, fill that niche for multiple reasons, and one of them probably is, there is an awful lot of software that's not sold through the Mac App Store, including mine.
Mm-hmm.
I would say probably like 10% of my programs are through the Mac App Store, if that.
10% are?
10% are through the Mac App
So
Store.
90% are not.
Right. Yeah.
Although, I do see people online that like, oh, I won't buy anything that's not in the Mac App Store.
See, I don't get that.
I don't get it either, but I don't think
totally
it's a major.
There are people I do consulting, and there are people who are new to Macs who've had iPads and iPhones and have no idea that there are another way to get software other than the Mac App Store, because that's what they see.
Right.
And they how many people have you talked to that don't know what to do with a DMG file, in the days? So.
Right. Yes. And Warren, those people that you've encountered that get a Mac after having an iPhone or an iPad, and you tell them, hey, you can go to this website for the company and download the software.
Doing that. I'm not going to do that. That's what you get. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that?
Right.
Why should I trust them? I can just use the App Store.
It's too hard. It's too
hard.
Yeah. And Apple could make it a lot easier, but they never have, and now clearly they never will. In fact, that's something I could see as a possible next step, is make it more difficult than it is now.
Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by TrueBill. Get control of your subscriptions at truebill.com/MacVoices. Pick a number between 1 and 10. Whatever it isn't high enough for the number of subscriptions you have, including all the ones you've forgotten about. Introducing TrueBill, the app that gives you the power to control your subscriptions. Do you have any idea how many subscriptions you unknowingly pay for every month? You probably don't want to know the answer, so why not skip to the part where you use TrueBill and identify where you can stop spending and start saving. See all your subscriptions in one place. Keep the ones you want, cancel the ones you don't, right from within the free TrueBill app. And your TrueBill concierge is there when you need them to cancel unwanted subscriptions, so you don't have to. No talking to humans, no difficult conversations or sales pitches to keep your subscription going. Managing money can be hard, and juggling subscriptions even harder. Don't go it alone. Get TrueBill. Start canceling your unused subscriptions at truebill.com/MacVoices. Go right now, truebill.com/MacVoices. It could save you thousands a year. truebill.com/MacVoices. Thanks to TrueBill for supporting this week's Mac Voices.
And it's already pretty difficult. I mean,
Right.
you go somewhere and you download an app and then you go to run it. And now you get this pop-up that says, hey, are you really sure you want to do this? We're feeling kind of creepy about it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the flip side, I used to sell Windows software also. And my experience was that most Windows customers really didn't know you could buy software full stop.
No.
Because I would run into people and they were like, oh, I didn't know there was any software available besides Microsoft Office.
Well,
or
right now it's
or
the
maybe
opposite.
Photoshop. I think they were like stunned to meet somebody that sold software for Windows. Really? I can buy software?
Most people don't know the Windows Store
I think,
exists.
the Mac has always had much more, Mac customers have always been much more willing to, buy and install software than Windows users. But, as the Mac market has grown, I think a lot of those former Windows people have come over to the Mac side, and they brought that reluctance or ignorance about third-party software with them. But there's still a very strong core of Mac customers that definitely buy and use a lot of software and are willing to go to third-party websites for it. So fortunately for
Good thing for you.
yeah.
One last story I want to talk about tonight. This is a rumor, but I thought it's always a pertinent discussion. The iPhone SE has it been as selling as well as they thought it was going to be? This was in Mac Rumors that we're talking here, and they're reportedly Apple's cutting production for the third generation SE of 2022, just weeks after its launch, because of the global conflict and alleged low demand. This was a report from Nikkei Asia, and citing unnamed sources, of course. But according to the report, they're saying that they're cutting back production of the SE as much as 2 to 3 million units because of weaker than expected demand. First off, what do you guys think? Is that something you think is legit? And is Apple surprised that this may not have been as big a selling iPhone as they thought it would? Because I don't think people are spending money right now.
I think the war in the Ukraine is having an impact on a lot of people's purchasing decisions.
Yeah.
However, Apple
Also
does
Russia.
have a tendency to ramp up production for a new product, and then after the launch, Apple's really good at figuring this stuff out. So they know when after the launch it's time to scale back some of the production. So you get the big boost right at the beginning, and then you scale back and keep the stream flowing. So it may be that this is a case of Apple is scaling back production exactly when they planned. It could be that the situation around the world right now is making them do it a little bit earlier. But also, unless someone is providing the hard numbers saying this is what we are doing internally, and now this is what we're doing, and you can see the change in the numbers, and don't tell anyone I gave this to you because I'll lose my job, then it's all speculation.
As we kind of take with a lot of these stories. Yeah, like Jim, go ahead.
I was just going to say what you were saying, that I just ignore stories like that. It's like, what's your source? Who has a motivation to give that number, kind of numbers out, and they just want to write stories for clicks. And that's Apple's problem. What do I care?
But there's always been the debate. I think among us who are more higher techie than a lot of people, this phone doesn't appeal to us because it's a low-end model. A lot of people complaining the fact that it's still designed like an iPhone 8, but it does have the A15 processor in it, which is what's also in the iPhone 13.
That's why I had one.
Right. So you have the Frank. You have the 2020 version.
Why I did, but I traded that in for the iPhone 13 mini.
Oh, okay.
But the selling point to me was I was just looking basically for the camera and maybe 7 apps that I use regularly on iOS. So for me, it was perfect. I could buy that phone real cheap. It would give me enough money left over to go out and buy some Sandmark lenses so I could get some really good glass and do some video work. And I could come back here and dump it off on, the iMac.
Yep. And Warren, you said too that on my show that you wouldn't recommend the SE to anybody, even if it was somebody that was just one of that simple iPhone.
No, I said to do what Frank did and get the mini. That's what I would suggest instead. That's what I said last week. I played with it 2 days ago, the SE, the new one at the store. It's the screen's nicer than I gave it credit for on last week's show. I think I kind of poo-pooed the screen, but it didn't look terrible. It looked pretty good. It's a phone. That's the problem. There's nothing spectacular about it, and it's for people who maybe don't want to spend the money but want to have something new, or a lot of people who have been dragging around a half broken phone that need to upgrade and might do that too. So but again, it's like you and I and the rest of most of us here, we like the features of the new stuff. We like the cameras, and we like the OLED screen, and we like the size mostly. At least I do. I like the size of the Macs just because I'm old and I can't see that well. So, which I still have problems with it. Still have problems with it.
Magnifier.
Oh, I mean, I got like these now all over the place. It's bad.
No, I use magnifier on the iPhone.
I would, that too. But I would say, for the people who have get the small iPhone, buy a pair of these as well, and it helps a little bit. And then Dave told me a trick a couple of months ago that I love, where you could actually change the text size you could actually change the size of individual apps and pages with the control center, which that's a game changer, actually, to be honest with you. Speaking of size, but yeah, no, it was nice. It was fast, and just like Jim said, I don't think Apple's telling anybody what numbers are, and I don't think Apple is concerned either about whether they sold a little bit less than normal. I think they'll be fine.
They won't go bankrupt.
Not today. Maybe tomorrow.
I don't think so. All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up for this week. Let's go around the room and let everybody know how they can get a hold of you. Let's start in reverse here. Jim Rea, thanks for being here today, and how people find you.
Thanks for hosting. Did a great job.
Thank you.
Let's see. You can find me at provue.com, PROVUE.com, or on Twitter at ProVueJim, PROVUEJIM.
Great. Thanks for being here. Jeff Gamet, thanks for being here as well. Where can people find you?
Well, as Jim said, great job hosting. And I realized we were no better behaved with you than we are with Chuck. So I need to follow that up with, I am sorry. I am so sorry. But But you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I am Gamet on both. YouTube.com/JGamet for my videos. Here on most Tuesdays, causing trouble with all of you. On Thursdays, on The Big Show. And then in the evenings, most Thursdays, In Touch with iOS, again with you. And then on Fridays, The Mac Show. And Brian Chaffin and I are doing The Context Machine together. It's our own show.
Great. And Warren Sklar, thanks also for being here. How can people find you?
Oh, I'm on the Facebook, although I need to be more active. It's been I've been too tired to be on there. I know, it's terrible. What else? The show with Chuck sometimes, like this one. And Thursday we'll do another one.
Cool. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Frank Petrie, thanks for being here, Frank. How people can find you?
Fake Petrie.
Well, David, I left Facebook. I've left them about 20 years ago, and someone got me back on, and I finally had enough of it. So you can get me on Twitter at fpetrie. I show up on Instagram occasionally. I'm sort of phasing out social media. It's sort of driving me nuts. Unfortunately, it's not doing well for my website because I can't put up ads or anything. But doing that, I write a monthly column for Screencast Online magazine, Tom McAllister. And again, like everybody else said, you did a great job tonight, Dave. Thanks.
Thanks, Frank. All right. And everybody can find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. And you can also find me on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/DaveG65. And you can find me on Twitter at DaveG65. And thank you, Chuck, for allowing me to be your fill-in host for this week. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And as always, we're glad that you listened, and we'll talk again soon.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.